You are not a sinner, why do you kneel like that suddenly? Please stand up and sit comfortably. Winfred widened her eyes and spoke as if her appearance surprised her a little. Alexia shook her head. What am I if I am not a sinner? Abima said he wouldn't punish you, so get up quickly. Unless you're ignoring the prince's orders. When Winfred smiled kindly and spoke, Alexia stood up. However, his expression was still uncomfortable. It was as if he felt better for the punishment. His Majesty said he would forgive your sins by escorting me safely to the imperial castle and back, so you just have to do your best to protect me, sir. Calm the face. It was his responsibility to do so in the first place, but how could he use it to atone for his sins? Alexia had to respond that she would do it, even if it left a bad taste in her mouth. In a few days, they would depart Agrio and return to the capital, Venator. We had to do everything possible to ensure safety. They were supposed to leave Agrio as scheduled, but cloud search delayed them for a few days. The title of the book Winfred was reading caught his attention just as he was about to rush back and prepare to leave. A list of imperial nobles? He wondered why he read so carefully. Why was he suddenly consulting the list of nobles? Winfred felt Alexia's eyes fall on the cover of the book and quickly covered the list with other documents. Seeing him hurriedly covering it made her even more suspicious, especially since his face had an uneasy expression. Bo, is there anything left to do? What's more, he even stuttered when he found the words. Alexia narrowed her eyes and looked at Winfred. He said he had seen that expression before. It was the one his son Bradley played every time he had an accident and he hid it from him. However, the other person was the only prince in the empire who would become the crown prince. As it was unquestionable, he left the room with an uncomfortable feeling. When Alexia left, Winfred sighed deeply. He didn't know why he was so embarrassed. He hit his head with both fists and said he would have been less suspicious if he had behaved confidently. The reason Winfred was searching the list of imperial nobles was because of Isla. Upon hearing the surname hailing, he assumed that it belonged to a nobleman. He thought that if it was a high-ranking aristocrat, he would certainly remember it. Therefore, he carefully examined the list of names of the minor nobility. Is Isla okay? He didn't understand the cause of the numbness in his chest when he thought about her. Was it a disease of the soul? I was very curious to know where he was and what he was doing, but I couldn't even imagine. That was because Winfred didn't know anything about her. Except his name. I couldn't even tell if the name was real. For a girl with so many secrets, I could have given her an alias. Still, he tried to pronounce that precious name without making a sound. The tip of his tongue tingled again. I miss you. Winfred sighed and looked at the ceiling, as usual. As if Isla were on the roof, beyond the roof. They will meet again one day. That's why he said it. Winfred closed her eyes. Cloud opened his eyes with difficulty. Because his right eye was awkwardly bandaged, he felt that his vision in one of them was very limited. Even that was hard to focus on because I was dizzy. It was truly incredible power. Alexia soared. What kind of spirit would he have had to escape the city? His head was dizzy and blood was constantly flowing from the corners of his eyes. He administered first aid himself with the hemostatic agent he had and jumped from the high castle wall to avoid the guards. Although he sprained his leg, he endured the pain in his swollen ankle and ran non-stop until he escaped. And then, he lost his mind instantly. As soon as he regained his sanity, a few days later, he sent a letter to his sister-in-law Capella. Cloud had a hard time getting up. It was because he had to join the group as soon as possible. Hey, are you trying to wake up? You better rest a little more. The gray-haired counselor serving him opened his mouth with concern. But Cloud shook his head. Well, that's what I mean. Just take this medicine. The old man clicked his tongue and offered him a bowl of medicine. The medicine was bitter, but after drinking it in one gulp, his mind seemed to clear a little. The letter. I told you. Don't worry. The old man was a healer who lived hidden in the forest, outside the walls of Agrio, and would treat anyone for money. He didn't care at all whether they were criminals, so he treated countless suspicious patients. However, most of them were regular customers, so it was unclear how this young man knew about him and came to visit him. Thank you then, Cloud said as he placed a bag full of gold coins on the desk. Now that he had recovered enough to move, it was time to return to where his nephew and sister-in-law were waiting. Hang on a minute. I have to give you the medicine. The old man hurriedly handed over the medicine. The patient, who barely spoke, silently accepted the bag offered to him. Your eyesight will be worse than before, but you won't lose it completely. I think I got what I paid for, said the old man as he looked at the gold coins in his pocket. His eyes shone with greed. However, the scars were inevitable. If it had been treated with healing magic from the beginning, it would have healed cleanly without leaving scars, but it was not easy to remove the ones that had already formed. The old man clicked his tongue, saying that it was a pity that his handsome face was disfigured. While the old man was amusing himself by counting his gold coins, he raised his head and saw that the taciturn patient had disappeared without a trace. How long do you plan to make me wait on the street? The noble lady questioned in an intrusive tone, covering her mouth with a beautiful lace handkerchief. He also received the disapproval of the noble lady sitting next to him, who seemed to be his daughter. The soldier in charge of the inspection at the Agrio castle gate tilted his head with a frightened expression. I'm sorry. It's an order from my superiors. As they had been ordered to open and search even the cars, the inspection was considerably delayed. With the portrait of the prince who had rebelled 10 years ago in his hand, it was not easy for him to examine the faces of those who opened the castle door one by one. It was especially difficult to search the carriage of such a nobleman. No matter how brave she was, she couldn't help but be scared when she saw the look in the eyes of that arrogant noblewoman. After such an impressive time, no one in their group seemed suspicious. He let the lady's carriage pass, verifying that, although some carried weapons, they were an officially authorized mercenary band. The soldier sighed as he sent the elegant carriage out of the castle gate. And at that moment, the noble lady, or even Capella, who was traveling in that carriage, sighed. I couldn't express how lucky I was to have gotten out safely. We will soon cross the doors, my lord. If we go to a deserted place, I will dismantle it immediately. As he muttered under his breath, a groan was heard beneath his feet. I feel like I'm going to die of pain. Tell the carriage to speed up more. Byron responded with a somewhat irritated tone. As expected, her voice was very low, so he had to concentrate to hear it. Capella opened the car seat window and relayed Byron's instructions. The coachman quickened his pace. After a long journey, the group reached a forest with few people and hurriedly stopped the carriage. Hurriedly opening the bottom, Byron, who was hiding inside, stood up with an irritated expression. The quality of the trip is really the worst. He got out of the carriage with a grunt and stretched his arms. There was a clicking sound in the joints. Mississippi, miss? As Byron walked away from the carriage, Capella woke Isla. She seemed tired from the long inspection and had already fallen asleep. Isla woke up to Capella's voice, opened her eyes and looked around. I couldn't believe it. How could she have fallen asleep in that situation? He even had a very nice dream. It was a dream from his childhood. It was a dream from the time when he lived with his biological parents in the dukedom, a dream he couldn't even remember. Surprised by her own indifference, she got off Byron's carriage and prepared to camp. Uncle! Laura screamed in surprise. Turning his head to where he was looking, Cloud, with a bandage on his face, walked hurriedly. Laura! Where have you been? How much has happened? Laura, forgetting that there were many eyes around her, ran towards Cloud and slammed her closed fist into his chest. He gritted his teeth, wondering if she was worried or not. Although she spoke frankly, to her, Cloud was a substitute for her father, who died when she was a child. She was greatly affected when Cloud fell silent and did not return for several days. "I'm sorry. Can I inform the teacher for a moment?" Cloud said with an awkward smile. Laura continued to look at him with tears in her eyes. Happiness. Laura blew her nose and ran to her mother, who was looking at Cloud with wide eyes in surprise.